All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast. I'm Kyle, and I've got Trevor and another very special guest in English from Commodity.
What's
So,
happening?
yeah, thanks, man, for jumping on. I just real quick want to say that I'm glad the goatees are coming back because Trevor was just giving me crap for it. And, dude,
Do we need to get into this conversation?
I think we should because he gives me crap for it every
I
time.
could not. This is fun facts. I'm 37 now. I could not grow facial hair until like maybe 3 years ago. I don't know what it is, but I could not grow facial hair for whatever. And then all of a sudden it just started happening. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna let this ride. So I
Yeah,
did.
dude.
I rocked the mustache for a couple of years, and I just recently started doing this. So
Good.
Listen, you keep yours nice and tight. It looks good. Kyle's going System of a Down style on us. I already said that he looks like that.
He's not doing. No, he's going more crowbar. Yeah, down here.
Yeah,
That's more
there it is.
crowbar.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit of Kurt going in him right now.
Absolutely.
Well, I can give him crap, but dude, you look good, man. You're good. So
yeah. So yeah, man, thanks for jumping on. We've kind of talked back and forth for a little bit now, so we're excited you're finally on. But you know, we're huge fans of Commodity.
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot for real.
Yeah, super excited about seeing you guys at Furnace Fest. We're going to be out there. So they just dropped the schedule today, and you guys are playing first on one of the days, right?
Saturday, we're on the shed stage, believe it or not. So that, you know, they have the main stage out in the field, you know, but and the reality, everybody else, like the shed stage, that is like the pinnacle. That really technically is the main stage. I mean, that was the main stage for the original Furnace Fest, and I mean, it's kind of hard, especially every year since they've done the resurgence of it. Like, it's kind of like you look at the schedule when they drop it every year, and it's like, man, I'm gonna be at the shed stage all weekend. So it's kind of like, just the fest as like in a whole from the 2000s to now. Like, I mean, the shed stage it is very iconic, and I mean, it was kind of crazy to us when we found out that we were playing the shed stage. I to be honest, I thought we were going to play the pond stage, and then it was like, no, y'all are playing the shed, and I was like, oh, okay. So I mean, am I complaining? No, not at all. So that's why we're like, now at this point, we're like practicing very extra hard, because it's like I want it to be, that, like I said, it's a very iconic, it's just not like it's almost like it's the Madison Square Garden of hardcore at this point.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, I think all the clips you see from Furnace Fest are usually, in the furnace, like Sloss area, people jumping off that stage, and you can see like in the background and stuff.
Oh,
so that's awesome.
Last year was kind of probably the craziest that I've seen it, when people, so like you guys have not been to Furnace Fest yet, right? Or have y'all been?
No.
This is the first time. So like the way that the shed is, because it was an old steel mill or whatever, but when you walk up the steps going into the shed, it's a ramp that, the platform where everybody stands, it's a ramp going down in this stage. So no matter where you stand inside of the shed, you can see the stage. You don't have like some 8-foot guy standing in front of you, or somebody, over somebody's shoulders or something like that. I mean, you'll be able to see, but there's concrete walls that go all the way down beside, through that whole shed. Last year when Drain was playing, there was this dude during Drain's set, and I was on the side of the stage on the shed stage while Drain was playing. This guy just started diving off the side of the concrete walls. And then when Trash Talk played, the bass player climbed up climbed up the monitors. It was, I mean, last year was kind of like, oh, it's like wild. So,
it's gonna be hard to top that.
I mean, but it's like I said, the shed stage. I mean, I like the pond stage too, though. I think that is very, like, I got to see Will Haven. I finally got to see Open Hand last year. It's a personal, favorite band of mine. But y- the main stage too. That that's like the bigger bands and stuff like that. But like, I will say, out of all the years, and I even told Johnny this, I think last year that was the best weekend closer to have Pennywise and Bane play back to back each other on the main stage with no barricades or anything. It was, oh, I lost my mind to Pennywise, definitely. I'm a huge Pennywise. I'm a very huge Pennywise and Ignite fan. So, but
That's awesome.
So, anyways.
So not to derail, because I feel like we got off to a real good start here, but the furnaces are haunted, right?
Yes, 100%. 100%. Like it like they usually do tours, and there's like a lot of these like ghost society things that like do stuff. I think, what was that show on Sci-Fi? Ghost Hunters.
Like,
They did
Ghost
an
Hunters?
episode there.
Yeah.
I think it was Ghost Hunters. There was a couple of them in like the 2007, 8, 9s that were very popular. They did a couple episodes there, but like, yes, it is. If you do like the actual like tours when stuff isn't going on, there was like, there was a lot of deaths in that, and people working and stuff like that. There was people like deer that would fall 100 feet and fall in the gears and stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty crazy, but yeah, there's been some pretty like eerie stuff that has happened. So yes, it is 100% haunted.
So who's our like come out and been like, yeah, I got crowd killed by a ghost?
I think that is possible. It probably has.
It's the
Easton. I will tell you all this. Easton from Fallen will probably tell you that during Bleeding Through set in 22. So that was and it's funny. Fallen is another Birmingham band, and is awesome. I love everybody in that band. Awesome, and they played Furnace Fest last year, believe it or not. But the first time I actually met Easton was Bleeding Through was playing, and it was during Revenge I Seek, and I have no idea who did it. I think it might have been a ghost, but got laid out right in front of me, and I just jumped down. I was like, "Are you okay?" Eyes wide open, and just got up, and just went right back off into the pit. And I was like, "Yeah, he'll be all right." So,
all right,
he's on his own at this point. I tried.
So, as newbies coming out to Furnace Fest, what are some like do's and don'ts that we should be aware of?
The do's. The don'ts would be, oh my goodness. I didn't know these were going to be these tough questions, so I'm trying to think. I mean, really, man, it's really as far as like because it's y'all's first time, like y'all said, like I mean, really, it's for people that are coming the first time. Expect the unexpected, but it's more. I mean, I think that people are just so excited to be there. I think that people are just like, oh my, this. They're just so excited. I mean, it's every year has been like an insane stacked lineup, and it's like, right now everybody as they drop the schedule today, everybody's trying to figure out, oh, who am I going to see, or oh man, I can't believe this band's playing on this stage this day or whatever. But I mean, as far as I will tell you this. I mean, if you're watching bands that are overlapping or bands playing at the same time, just wear very comfortable shoes. That is a very do. I mean, go spend the money, buy some on clouds or something. I have no idea. Don'ts. I would not. No, I would not drink all day. It's not. It's yeah. I mean, it's work. And it's not really that you're walking so far out to these stages. It's just that the way that they stagger these schedules with Furnace Fest every year, you're just all over the place. Oh, I'm gonna I gotta see His Legend on the main stage, or go see 68 on the pond stage, or this, and they're all playing it so close together. So you're like running back and forth a lot. And then, and just the merch mall under the bridge is just like it's insane. So I mean, so you're doing all that all at once. So hopefully allow yourself a couple of breaks. But my biggest thing is um don't try to come. I guess I wouldn't try to come in to Furnace Fest either, trying to act like I'm the hardest mosher in the world or any of that other stuff, because I mean, it's kind of like turning into a tight, a tight community of people, the Furnace Fest
Yeah.
community and all that stuff. Like, that's helped a lot of people get to know each other and stuff like that. I mean, really, in the demographic of things, I mean, it's a demographic of every age range, and I mean, but what I've noticed from all the years, it's more people aim towards my age, middle aged, or in their late 30s, early 40s, maybe mid 40s, late 40s. I mean, but just just like I said, be prepared for a lot of walking, uh,
Yeah.
and strategic about it, and then just don't come in with an attitude. Don't try to come in acting like I'm hard or anything like that, because I mean, really, there's no place for that in this anywhere, anyways. So,
Yeah.
I mean, those are the only things that I would
Yeah.
probably say at this point. And don't drink
Yeah,
all
I
day, because
gotcha.
it's horrible.
Yeah, no, I like hearing that. That's cool. We're really excited about it. And what's interesting is when you brought up kind of the age gap, not age gap, like when you brought up kind of who the demographic is, because we did an episode where we were kind of went through all the bands that are playing and who we're looking forward to, and
Mm,
I made the comment that like this Furnace Fest for me are bands that like I never really got to see. I'm early 30s, so like I
yeah,
never got to see No Innocent Victim. You know,
yeah, yeah,
so like that's kind of where I'm so excited for this. Is it's like, man, these are all the bands like that I listened to when I was a kid, but just wasn't at a point where I could go to these shows. So I'm just
yeah. It's
super
it's
pumped.
it's like I said. It's like I was telling my son Emery. He plays drums in Twisted Luck, which they're opening the whole entire fest. They're like inaugurating the whole entire
Sick.
fest. So we were talking about bands and stuff like that, and like most of these bands I got to see when I was his age. So it's like 18 Visions doing the Obsessions and its 20th anniversary. I
Yeah.
got to see 18 Visions when they had just put out Obsessions with His Legend. I mean, I got
That's
to see stuff
crazy.
like that, and just like I got to see Bury Your Dead when they just put out, Cover Your Tracks and stuff like that. So, to be able to um, get to see but another thing about it is like, I mean, there's bands on there I never got to see. I never got to see
Yeah.
Coalesce. You know,
Mm,
I never got to see No Innocent Victim. I never got to see Silent Drive, which, when Johnny told me, "Oh yeah, we got Silent Drive," I was like, "Wow!" Like that was insane to me. It's
yeah.
such like that's wow. That's such an underrated band that I feel people need to try to like check out a little bit more. So, but like, yeah, I mean, and it's great because my son gets to see these bands, like he likes Poison the Well, or he and,
Yeah.
and another thing about it is too, like I get to see bands that are newer, which I mean, I've gotten to see Pain of Truth, but my son turned me on to Pain of Truth, you know, and that's like, Pain of Truth is like this generation's like their hate breed right now, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so it's really like, as in the age demographic, I think like the people that really like really want to be like go to this fest, like it's an all around experience. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you have the age demographic is out there, but like, but it's great to see that younger kids can be into the bands that we were
Hmm.
into, and us older cats can have that. I guess you could. I wouldn't know what to call it, but like some of these new bands that are coming out is blowing my mind right now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that my kids turning me on to. And
Absolutely.
I mean, it works both ways. So,
So, speaking of Twisted Luck, their single "Suffering to Survive," absolutely fantastic.
but yeah, I remember when they wrote that. So we practice, we share the same practice space and all that stuff, and equipment wise and whatnot. When they wrote that song, Emery was just, because Commodity will always say that Emery is technically a fifth member. Emery was there since from day one when we started Commodity. But Emery had been trying to push the band into like, man, we need to start doing some D beat stuff, and like, they were just like, the so they kind of, they had a couple member changes and stuff like that. So when they had a couple of new players come in, it was kind of like, oh yeah, we can work with this, we can do this. And when they wrote that, I was just like, yeah, you guys are kind of sounding like an Integrity a little bit more. I'm definitely into that. So
yeah,
everybody was like, yeah, I figured
sound.
you like this one. So I was very impressed. Very impressed.
Yeah,
so,
dude, that metallic sound, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
My question for you now is: did you push Emery into drums so you always had a drummer?
No, I didn't. I did not push Emery into drums. It was a thing that kind of was like, when I was his age, when I was 12, it was kind of like, where we're from, in Alabama or whatever. Most people have that path when they start hitting that age. It's rather you're going to play sports or you're going to play music. And, I kind of chose the other road of playing music and stuff like that. I've never tried to push drums on him, but I even noticed, even when he was like little, like a baby, he would be sitting in his walker, and I'd be sitting there listening to like 7 inches and stuff like that. And I can notice that he was keeping time with his hands in his walker while we were sitting there listening to records. So it just kind of came natural to him. But everything that the drumming, I am not a drummer. So I can play, I can do some stuff, but he's also had like older figures around him, like my best friend Lance and Chase, that was also one of the founding members of this band. Rest in peace. Showed Emery some tricks and stuff, but he just kind of picked it up on his own, and it's past couple of years, it's just taken off, and look where it is now.
Yeah. That's
for sure.
No, that's really cool. And,
yeah.
My kids are really young. My son has had interest in playing the drums and stuff too. And it's the same thing. Like, because a lot of people I've read that are like, asked the question, is there an instrument a kid should start out with? Should he learn piano for? And the answer all the time is let them play what they want to play, because then they're going to learn it. So if he wants to play the drums, let him play the drums.
Well, Johnny kind of came to me last year when Twisted Luck started taking off, and it's like his son River and Emery have become really good friends through this whole entire thing that we call hardcore or whatever, punk, whatever you want to call it. And at the time, Johnny was trying to kind of push River in that direction, and he was like, man, how'd you do it with Emery? I was like, you just let go of it. He'll choose his path. And then all of a sudden, I was like, they'll snap into it. It's whether they want to do it or they don't. And then look at what River started Double Tap. And I will tell you something about those Twisted Luck and Path of Destruction and Double Tap and all these young cats. Those are some hard moshers. I was like, what year is this 2004 happening right now? Those are some hard kids, man.
Yeah.
So they don't play around.
I actually kind of wanted to ask you about that, because it's an interesting perspective that I think you're in that a lot of people in hardcore aren't really in, right? My kids are really young, so I can't really relate, but Commodity has this like old school 2004-ish type sound. It's faster. I don't know who to compare it to, but it's just a faster, punky influenced hardcore, right? Twisted Luck more on the beatdown, heavier, bigger breakdowns. Do you notice kind of the separation between generations and the music they're putting out? Is that
yeah, 100%. Because when us coming up like in the scene, like the big bands at our time were which we get referred to a lot, and I will take it. I had somebody the other day, man, y'all sound a lot like Havheart, man. Y'all have a big Havheart influence. I will take that. I love Havheart. I was a way bigger Verse fan. Verse is like one of my biggest influences, but Verse was not as, they toured together all the time. So I saw Verse and Havhart on their first tours together, but
awesome.
But Verse never, like, they were at the time that they were out in the 2000s. Yes, they were a pretty notable band, but they were not as big as Havhart. But like we get referred to that and Comeback Kid and like the bands at the time, like dude, we Kids Like Us and Down to Nothing and Righteous Jams and like and I Rise. Like I Rise was a band that should have been huge, but I mean, they did, the longevity of that band did not last long. But like, and then at the time, like, but now it's kind of like the bands that kind of like influence these kids. You start seeing Knock Loose, that
Mm-hmm.
which I know that Knock Loose was around for a long time before they started getting like huge. Same thing with Kublai Khan.
Yeah.
But like it's kind of like that's the sound right now versus like the sound that when I was in the scene, Have Heart and Comeback Kid and all that stuff was like that was the sound at the time. But now it's this time. But also, if you want to go on the metallic, like going back to the metallic, because that you know with now, like Hatebreed at the time. Y'all remember when Hatebreed got huge?
Yeah.
We felt like that was the moment that like, oh, it just came out of nowhere. They signed a major label. They put out I remember when they put out Perseverance. And I remember seeing them on their 10th anniversary tour. Now where are they at now? The 35th anniversary tour?
30.
Seriously.
Yeah. 30. Yeah. I saw them Most Precious Blood, Full Blown Chaos, man. But like, that's I don't know if it's like this generation of I don't know if it's angst or whatever, but like it's just the sound that has just like evolved with it. I've noticed it with a lot of these newer, younger bands, like just real down tune, like 7 string and stuff like that. Um, but I mean, it's the sound that of their era. That Knock Loose and Kublai Khan. Like, I mean, those bands put in the work for like almost a decade before they even started getting noticed.
Right.
So, and it's just kind of escalated from there. But it's another thing that I kind of feel like with some of these younger kids coming into it, they're like a sponge. Like if you start talking to them about bands and stuff like that, like they will go home. And technology, by the way, has also a big has a big part in this too.
Yeah.
But like I'll sit there, like I remember there was a show and everybody in Twisted Luck Balmora. Balmora was have y'all heard Balmora? Yeah.
Oh, they're so good.
Oh man, they were all excited. Oh, Balmora, 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 Balmora. So I go, I take Cameron to go see Balmora. All these kids, they're just losing it. You know, they get done and Emery comes up to me. He's like, "What'd you think? What'd you think about more?" And I was like, "Reminds me of Broken Wings." Next thing you know, Broken Wings is huge now. They're all listening on Broken Wings. They're all about Unbroken Wings. So it's kind of like it's like Knock Loose. They at first it started with Knock Loose. It was the gateway. Knock Loose and Kublai Khan's the gateway, and then they just are on their own path. But like Knock Loose, I started showing them bands like the Warriors and Disembodied. The Warriors and Disembodied, that's Knock Loose for you.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I mean, Kublai Khan, Bury Your Dead has some kind of play in there. So it's like I said, like it's just in this time of music. This is their hardcore. What Commodity is doing is I wanted to do so. I mean, easily I can do that. I mean, I did it my entire teenage years and going through my 20s, but now I wanted to get back to something like, man, you listen to these bands every day still, and you miss that sound, and it kind of takes me back to those shows of how it was just so upfront, and it was, man, you were upfront, it was so involved.
Yeah.
But and,
So-
but So I'm not trying to make these answers go on forever. So I didn't.
No, you're good.
I should have warned y'all before we did this. I thought I
No,
have like
we
long
look.
answers to everything.
We love this. This is great. This is exactly what we're looking for.
Absolutely. But let's dive in now, man. Like, let's start talking about commodity, because obviously we did an episode on you guys because you guys are great.
I appreciate that.
Of course, yeah. And one things that Kyle pointed out was on your guys' Instagram, you have the phrase "tune high, play fast." You know what I mean? It was something that stood out for us, and it's exactly what you were saying. So my question is, I've read through some of your interviews, right? You had the interview with No Echo where you talk about it starting as a passion project. And I found the phrase passion project a little bit interesting. Were you like in some of those beatdown or metalcore or other bands and you just like wanted to get back to kind of that roots, or like what was the need for this passion project that you started with Chase?
I think that it was kind of like, me and Chase also, because it happens as you get older. Um, we kind of, took that long, had to take a step back from, playing music. Life happens. Especially raising a kid and careers and this and that, and really through the 2010s in Birmingham, there was still a scene, but it was kind of like a wavelength. You had a couple of high points of it, but it really, everybody from our era just kind of just dropped out, disappeared, stuff like that. Now there's still characters like Marco and JT from Cold Hard Steel are still around. I mean, Josh Williams, that owns Workplay and stuff like that. Those cats are still here, but I think at first the band was supposed to be like this. Uh, Chase wanted to start Commodity as like this whole Fat Wreck epitaph 90s punk. I want to sound like Pennywise, and we just play fast and stuff like that. But it took us like 2 years, maybe a little bit longer, to like actually have like the members that were at like Commodity now. Tommy and Seth definitely. We went through like this revolving door, but it was supposed to be like, oh, we're gonna do, we're gonna do this. This is what we want to do. Because I mean, I grew up on that stuff. I love NoFX and Pennywise and Lagwagon and Strung Out and stuff like that, like Face to Face. And still a huge Hot Water Music fan, by the way. But
nice.
But it was supposed to start like that, but as we got deeper into it, more members, like people just weren't working out. It just wasn't fitting the mold. It wasn't this, it wasn't that. So we went on. Um, we noticed, like, especially Tommy and Seth came in the same month. Tommy is our bass player. Seth is our vocalist. They came in the same month, and what really did it was January 1st of 23, when Seth actually got to come in. He was like, he came in and did vocals. And that night, me and Chase called each other on the phone. I was like, "This band is going to turn into a melodic hardcore band, and I'm 100% all here for it." Because Chase was like, "I know you are." He was like, but I mean, Chase was the same way, because like, I started, like, I've been showing Chase like one of the newer bands that really made me want to start Commodity, and this is real talk, was Be Well. When Be Well came on my radar, and this was before the pandemic. When Be Well came on the radar, I was like, it took me back. I was like, this is it. And then when I started finding out who was all in it and where they came from, I was like, oh wow, no wonder why I'm like so into this. I mean, you got members of Battery and Bane in there, and even Darkest Hour. I mean, so it resonated. It wasn't even that. It was like that period in my life too, what I was going through, like just the lyrics. I think like some of the lyrics on the first record, on the first Be Well record, man, that was like the swan song for me. That was like my soundtrack, because I was like, I feel like Brian is only talking to me because I'm dealing with this right now. It was. I mean, it was kind of a low point, and then, um, um, and then when me and Chase started Commodity, it kind of started resparking. But in 23, that's when the gears was like, we found what we're doing. Like, we're doing this. But if you listen to like our first EP versus we're fixing to put out a new EP on September 20th, you will see. Just sit down and listen to all three of them. I did it the other night. Our sound has evolved so much, we're not even the same band anymore.
Cool.
And it's not that
That's cool.
it's in a bad way. There's so many different influences from everybody in this band. But like, I think that like now, especially, and Troy, our drummer now, does not get enough credit. But especially on Between the Lines, Troy came into a very like a fragile situation, I guess you could call it. Like, we had just lost one of my best friends for 20 years, and like, we didn't know what we were gonna do. And me, Seth, and Tommy had met up and talked, and we were like, "What do you guys want to do?" Nobody wanted to stop doing it, and Troy was already a fan of our band. This is what he tells me. I was already a fan, but he had found every YouTube video, anything he could find on us, and learned every drum part he possibly could.
Oh, cool.
Came into the first time to jam with me and Tommy. Me and Tommy walked in the kitchen, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't think we need to look for anybody else." And I mean, but Troy does not only for that, but Troy has also helped shape our band sound with his drum playing, because he is a huge Deftones fan, which I think everybody in Commodity is a huge Deftones fan.
Cool.
Which we don't credit them enough. I think they should be, but a lot of our grooves and stuff are written from Deftones, or that influence comes from Deftones, and Troy's kind of helped put that in perspective. So, but like I said, that's kind of where we're at now.
That's awesome. So, talking about this EP coming out, how long has it been since your last one?
We
Between
put
the
out
Lines was 2024, was last year, or no, it's this year, right?
No, it's March of 24.
That's right, it was this year.
So yeah, we what we did was we recorded Between the Lines. So really the new one, which is called All We Have, which is 3 new songs or whatever. We kind of wanted to put something out just aimed towards the Furnace Fest community. Like, what we're not trying to do like this big, like we did with Between the Lines and stuff like that. We're not trying to get reviews or anything like that. We wanted to put this out, and it kind of refers. I mean, the songs. I mean, Seth is not here, but like, I think the songs more now talk about the state of where our scene in Birmingham is right now, and kind of like how we feel what it is. And I kind of feel like I think my favorite song on that record is Failure at Heart, which the few people that have listened to it, Failure at Heart, they were like, this is the best song on this record. Which I was like, the funny story about that is I wrote that in 2019, and I just had it all these years, and it finally found its place to fit. And lyric wise, I mean, Seth got. I think you can kind of, when you listen to it, you kind of see where we're at. I mean, it's a little bit mean. I mean, I don't want to be the cliche and say, "Oh, it's heavy," because I mean, we haven't changed what we're doing. I mean, we're still playing in the E standard tuning. Because I had a lot of people, y'all changed tunings? I was like, no, we're still playing in standard. They're like, there's no way. I was like, yes, you can be heavy in this tuning, I promise.
Good. So that kind of brought me to another question that I thought was interesting. The album comes out, you said September 23rd?
20th.
September 20th. Okay. And you're writing it about kind of the scene in Alabama. I'm originally from Salt Lake City. I relocated down to Dallas, Texas, like 4 years ago or something.
Okay.
It was interesting growing up in Utah because this music, this scene is very frowned upon. It's not accepted. I think it's more now, right? Like we got judged a lot for listening to the music we did and looking the way we did or
Oh
whatever.
man.
I feel
Yeah.
the same in Texas. All the people I talk to that I work with, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's crazy." Like it's brand new to them because it's always kind of been hidden. How
Yeah.
did this scene or this music grow in Alabama? Because I feel like different places, but we kind of came from the same area, right? Like it's kind of the same experience.
You kind of like I mean, when you think Alabama, everybody thinks that it's like dirt roads. I mean, I've that you know they think there's nothing here, but like Birmingham within itself is, I mean, it is a very cultured city. So more than anywhere else in Alabama. But I think that there has always been a very I mean, even before my time, I mean, it's kind of like groundwork. You know, people lay the groundwork. You know, uh, man, it's kind of hard, but I think one of the I think one of the bands that probably does not these day and age, and most of these kids don't even know about one of the Birmingham bands that I kind of feel that kind of helped put Birmingham on the map. That kind of started it was Haste. So, which you know, Haste was one of my first hardcore shows I ever went to when I was like, what was it, 2001? I was 13, 14 years old. I can't even remember at this point. Me and Kelly from Haste talk about this all the time, but but I think that Haste kind of started. Hayes started kind of making Birmingham known. They got signed to Century Media. They started doing these bigger tours. You know, they went on tour with Turmoil, Candiria, As I Lay Dying, Norma Jean, all this other stuff. And I think that kind of did, but that like there's always been a kind of a connection. I mean, Chad from Furnace Fest, you know, he you know, he had his own venues back in the day, and then he started Take Hold Records, which then, you know, he went on to uh I think he was doing A&R work for Solid State all those years and stuff like that. But I think that's what it kind of started helping putting Birmingham on the map. And then when Cave 9 opened, was like, you know, I think that it was just, I think that like when those bands, I mean, there's so many people that had so many involvement in it. Mike Parsons, uh, Aaron Hamilton, a lot of those cats were, I think it was, they were bringing these bands here, but I think what it was that like Birmingham, I felt like we needed to have the voice. You know what I'm saying? I felt like we need to be known. We need to be known. Even after Furnace Fest, the original Furnace Fest ended, because Cave 9 didn't come around. Cave 9 came around the last year of the original Furnace Fest, 2003. But then you had those bands that played Furnace Fest that would come back through and they would play. But I mean, I just think I think it gave those bands a reason to say, dude, if you tour the South, you need to go to Birmingham, because nobody would expect it. I mean, I remember watching Terror when they put out Always the Hard Way, and it was a big package tour. It was them and the Warriors. The Warriors had blown up at that time. I'd already done seeing the Warriors when there was only like 13 people there, and then they come back with Terror and they're 400 people are there.
Yeah.
But I remember Scott Vogel standing on stage. He was like, "Yeah, they try to route this tour through major cities," and he's like, "I'm not doing this tour unless we play Birmingham." So I just think it really, but it also takes a community. It really does. It really does. It takes people that really care. But I think that at that time, to pave the way, I really do give props to Haste a lot. I think that Haste really I think that Kelly and Nick and Chris and all those guys really did put in the legwork to like do something, and they did. They put out 3 records on Century Media before they did, dissolve. But
Yeah.
it. But that's my own opinion. I can't really tell you how how it's become that it is.
Right.
You know.
No, I mean that's a cool story, and I think what was really cool is the community aspect of it. Because when you are in this little pocket, this little bubble,
Yeah.
that's not in major areas. That's all you have to rely on is that community that you build and stuff.
I am still friends with people that I met 20 years ago, including including JT and Marco from Cold Hard Steel, and I've known me and Johnny Grimes are from the same neighborhood, so I've known Johnny since I was a kid, so
Yeah.
and it's just kind of weird how it all just full circle. So
Yeah.
there's some cats that have will get in the scene and they'll start a band or something, and when it's over for them, it's over, and you won't ever see them again. But there's some of us that just are kind of like cockroaches. We kind of just hang over for a little bit, and then we come out of nowhere, and they're like, God, I can't get rid of them. We're here forever.
Yeah.
So
it's funny you say that. Kyle and I have been friends for 25 years. We grew up in the same area kind of thing.
Yeah.
Josh, who's on with us from time to time, he's been our friend for 20 years. Like we've grown up knowing each other. And this music was a big reason why our friendships developed, the reason why we stayed so close. I mean, we started a stupid podcast to talk about this music, right? Like
100%.
there's something about it. It just it draws you in.
Yeah. Friends that crowd kill together stay together, right?
See, we didn't call that crowd killing back in the day. We used to call it hate moshing. So
sure.
Yeah.
Now it's called crowd killing. I mean, if you want my perspective on the crowd killing, it is what it is. I mean, me personally, I'm not really a big fan of it, but it is what it is. It just depends on what show it is.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of hard moshing, the intentional punchy the side of the crowd kind of thing.
Yeah.
That gets a little bit weird for me kind of thing. But that being said, I would throw into the crowd just standing backwards. I just wasn't facing them. So, it is what it is. So, but whatever the kids like these days.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's their time. My knees can't take it anymore.
For real. So, no, I mean, it's interesting that you're talking about your scene and everything. The only bands that so we weren't old enough. We're a few years younger than you. We're 33, right? So we weren't quite old enough for the first iteration of Furnace Fest. Like, I think in passing, I kind of knew that there was something going on there. But our bands coming out of Alabama were Maylene and the Sons of Disaster.
Yeah.
My Children, My Bride was the big one for us kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think Gideon came through from Alabama, right?
Yeah.
Those were the bands that we were going to on a regular basis. We knew since their inceptions kind of thing. And that's what I knew from your guys' area. So you're talking about Haste, a hardcore band, right? How was the reception to Maylene, who's Southern rock?
But see that's where that is perfect that you bring that Maylene into this. 'Cause Josh Williams, that is one of the owners of Work, played with Johnny, is another great friend of mine. Josh was one of the OGs of Maylene and the Sons of Disaster. It kind of like I said, Haste. As Haste was going out, Maylene was coming in, but they were doing. I mean, Chris from Haste was on the first Maylene record on 2 of the songs on there. So
cool.
They were doing stuff together. So as Haste was kind of going out, Maylene started becoming the forefront for Birmingham. Oh God, when Maylene came out, and I remember my old band at the time. We played. I think it was the 3rd Maylene show. It was at an abandoned ice skating rink or something like that, and it was with at the time before they're called I Am Terrified Now, but at the end it was fixed till Tuesday. And then man, there was so many, it was whatever. But when Maylene came out, everybody was trying to do this whole Southern, everybody was trying to be Maylene. Me personally, not. I was over there trying to be like Poison Well, but yeah, I love, and don't get me wrong, it was something like insanely new and different. They were doing something like, wow. But as I was saying, like, I think that it kind of like at that time, because Haste and Maylene were doing stuff together, I think Haste just kind of handed the torch off to Maylene and let them do what they were doing, you know. And as that went on, Gideon does not sound. When they first came out, did not sound anything like the band that they sound like now.
Right.
I mean, which My Children, My Bride was up north Alabama. We're central, but still, I mean, My Children, My Bride started coming out. They started getting popular, and they helped put North Alabama on the map. And there was other bands that came with it from North Alabama, but yeah, it's like I said, it kind of like the generations start mending together, and it starts like, hand off the torch, it's your turn. So, but Maylene, in our minds, Haste was like the big band, right?
Yeah.
But when Maylene became the big band, they did it on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So they did it on a way bigger scale. And then at the time, that's when social media started becoming a thing. LiveJournal and MySpace. And, to the kids that don't know, those were things before Facebook and Instagram. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's like I said, in Birmingham, it's kind of, it all kind of mends together generation wise.
Cool.
So,
that's cool.
It's
funny that you say everyone tried to sound like Maylene. So we grew up on Rise record bands, right? That was like our label that we grew up with,
Sumerian.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Rise and Sumerian. But every single Rise record band that put out, they had their Southern song. It doesn't matter if they were metalcore. It doesn't matter if they were post-hardcore. They had their Southern song on there. And that's direct influence from Maylene's, direct influence from He Is Legend. These Southern bands that really coined that Southern feel. Like that, they all did it.
Yeah. I mean, but like, I even know that they're not from the South. Every Time I Die is Hot Damn.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is like GOAT. That is like the GOAT record. Everybody go, oh, well, Every Time I Die. But I was like, nah, Hot Damn.
Yeah.
Hot Damn.
And those,
I mean, really.
When that album came out, like the first two
albums.
From
Buffalo, New York.
Yeah. Those shows used to go way hard. Like,
man,
you wouldn't expect it, but like those first two albums, man, when they toured those, those were nuts.
Insanity. Like, man, Hot Damn. Yeah, that was another game changer. But like I said too, I think with, you have these two sides that say, oh, the internet killed music, but I've always said this, even when the internet started becoming way more. I mean, because I'm from the era where it was dial-up. It was AOL.com. You had to have AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, all that stuff. But, I think that's also kind of helped scenes too, though. But now you can go look up a band, you go look up a band now, and you can find their influence and that band's influence and that band's influence. I mean, it's kind of out there now. But, especially with us then, even though that the internet started becoming more accessible, you still had to dig for this stuff. I mean, you really had to dig. And like it was, man. Look in that thank yous list in that book. Look at all them other bands that they're thanking. That's how I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely in the generations of of Birmingham. I mean, I don't think Alabama gets enough credit for the bands that come from here and the bands that have done great things. I think that there has been in the past, but like I said, it's like y'all said, it's like the torch gets handed. It's your turn.
Well, and you mentioned the bands that Alabama had, but the bands they have now too. I mean, just the stuff that like you guys, Delta Hate, Twisted Luck. I mean, holy cow, it's so good.
Steel. I mean, even
all in.
That's another band. That is another band that also helped. I also will give from my era that does not get enough credit is All In. They were signed. All In were signed to Hand of Hope, which was a subsidiary of Eulogy Records, and at that time, Eulogy was like the big label. Kids Like Us, Shattered Realm, Unbroken Wings, Evergreen Terrace, but All In were a touring machine. They would tour and tour and tour and tour, and they also helped bring bands that have never been to Alabama here. So it's like I said, when you hear people talk about community, that's really how you do it. Like, hey man, you meet somebody out on the road, you're like, oh man, I like your band. Hey, we need to do more stuff together. The next time you come down Southeast, come through Birmingham. Don't go to Atlanta and come here, or hit both of them.
Right.
It's a strong connection, and that's what happens. And they're like, oh man, you're right about this. So, I mean, there has been a lot of bands that have played here that were like, my mind is blown right now. I had no idea. So,
no, that's awesome. Well, for real, we seriously appreciate you. Commodity has been, I said we just did a 1-year episode. So we've been doing this podcast for just over a year, and we were talking about the bands that we've either found or things like that. And Commodity is up there as like my number 1 or 2 that I go back to and listen most frequently of. We call it our local band series, right? The smaller bands that we come out with. Between the Lines, absolutely fantastic.
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Oh, of course. Of course. When you were talking about kind of that nostalgia kick and like everything like that coming back when you were listening to Be Well, that's what I got listening to Commodity. It was a huge nostalgia hit for us. So much fun getting a sound that's not as popular today. So I cannot wait to see you guys at Furnace Fest. We will be moshing for you. There might be, a small crowd at the beginning, but we're good.
Stage dives. Make those guys on stage that are working the stage work. Like, there is no barricade. Stage dive. We encourage stage dives so hard because I that, not to get off subject here, and I know we're probably trying to end this, but like, that's a big problem that I've heard from a lot of these young kids. They're like, nobody stage dives or anything at shows and all this other stuff. That's one thing that we were trying to like bring to the table, is like, we are a stage diving band. So,
dude, you got it, man. I'll put an icy hot patch on my back, and dude, I'll stage dive the whole time. I'm glad that you guys are playing first on Saturday, because then I'm like, I'll be well rested and won't be hurt yet. So I'll get hurt to you guys and just rest the rest of it. But yeah, dude, we'll stage dive. We got you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Listen, if you ever make it down to Dallas, hit up Kyle. Come out to Salt Lake. I think we're like the same kind of scene, man. It's we're kind of out of the way. It's unexpected if you haven't been through here. We've got a thriving scene as well. We'll definitely hook you guys up. So cool. Well, anything else from you, Kyle?
No, I'm good. This was fun. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, seriously appreciate you. We'll catch you here in 3 weeks.
Thank you. See you guys.
Thanks.
Peace.